to.
Phone number on speed dial. So that's good. So we got a listener out there that put us on speed dial. That's good. So you can always call us, listener. You can put us. Basically, you can call us, leave us voicemails. If you see something, say something, text something. Let us know what's going on across the state. That's what we want. That number 870-275-9799. All right, Joe. So I wanted to cover this topic because I saw this piece. Hang on one second. I saw this piece over here about free speech. It was an opinion editorial. It says, loud and clear, free speech is on a roll. And from the nation's capital to Arkansas's, freedom of speech reaped one victory after another as last week ended in what looked like a new birth of freedom began. The country's president, the irrepressible Donald J. Trump, issued an executive order letting Americans of faith know they need no longer fear being singled out by the Internal Revenue Service for voicing their faith anywhere. Quote, under my administration, the president declared, free speech does not end at the steps of a cathedral or a synagogue or any other house of worship. We are giving our churches their voices back. People of faith, he added, will no longer be targeted, bullied, or silenced anymore. And that got me thinking, because on Friday was May 5th, it was Cinco de Mayo, and there was an unfortunate event that happened. And I know this is speaking of freedom of speech with our exercise of freedom of religion, but think about it anyway. Freedom of expression in general is under attack in America, especially at our nation's colleges. So they got this clip here from New Hampshire University. And New Hampshire University, there's a guy on Cinco de Mayo, just a normal guy, wearing a baseball cap, carrying his backpack, but he had a poncho on. He had like a multicolored Mexican poncho on. And some woman was triggered. I mean, really triggered by it.
Yeah, she was really upset by this.
Yeah. And so this is what the audio sounds like.
Wearing a poncho. Leggings has nothing to do with anything. I'm asking, are you Mexican?
How's a poncho Mexican? Let's just get that going.
No, you're not. If you're not Mexican, how is it your holiday?
It's not my holiday. It's no one's holiday. We're celebrating. Okay.
Celebrating what? So celebrating what?
Cinco de Mayo.
It's not your holiday, sir.
Stop. I love that's my favorite part of the thing. Sir, it's not your holiday, sir.
So
let's treat him with respect, right? Let's call him sir.
As a person who is Caucasian, is Martin Luther King Day not my holiday?
They would, by this standard, no.
Because, well, I would
if you were, let's say you helped run your ancestors helped run the Underground Railroad. Nope, Martin Luther King Jr. Day is not your holiday, sir.
See, but I would like to pay respect to one of the greatest civil rights movement leaders of all time.
Yep. Well, it's not your holiday, Joe. You're white, and that's what they're saying, man. They're saying, okay, if you're not Mexican, then you can't celebrate Cinco de Mayo or
can't wear a poncho.
Any of that. Yeah, can't wear a poncho.
That's what they're calling this guy out for, is wearing a poncho.
Yeah, he's wearing, and it's really kind of viral. If you just type in Cinco de Mayo, it comes up, and let's see, where did it come up just now? If you want to actually watch the video yourself, just type in Cinco de Mayo, campus reform, white student accosted for wearing poncho on Cinco de Mayo.
I really want to know if there was someone else on campus that this girl, did this to that was just wearing, a plastic poncho. I wonder if it was raining.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, Cinco de Mayo is a day that celebrates the Mexican Army's victory over France. Okay, and there's unlikely. That's what it's there to celebrate. All right, so, sir, it's not your holiday, sir. Sir, it's not your holiday. All right, you can just feel the moral superiority. Go ahead, Joe. Keep going with this.
You're allowed to That's good for you white people to figure out. No. Cinco de Mayo is not your holiday.
Okay, so white people celebrate American holidays. Let's get get it. Stop. They want to act morally superior.
Here, wow. Back it up a little bit, but wow. That was in response. I don't know if you could hear it because they're all shouting at each other, but the response was like, well, do you celebrate?
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality where we are building a liberty machine, and we want you to be a part of that. One of the ways you can do that is to give us a phone call or a text message. The number 870-275-9799. That is the telephone number if you want to contribute. Now, I made a mistake this morning, and it's pretty grave in my opinion. Well, it was just, the consequences for me personally were more than I had anticipated. I did know there would be some consequences. I decided this morning to watch a little CNN. With all that's going on with the Trump administration, Donald Trump firing James Comey a few days ago, I just thought, you know what, let's go and see what let's go and see what people who are in a bubble say, and let's go and see what a lot of people are going to get their news from this type of slant. So I knew it was going to be painful. I had no idea how bad it was going to truly be. I mean, it was non-stop. And here's my question. Is this how leftists felt when they watched Fox News during President Obama's time in office? Is this how they felt? Now, that's just my question. I've kind of made up my mind on that. I think the answer is no. Honestly, I think it's much worse, and maybe that's because I'm on the right. I get that. I get that's an easy criticism of my conclusion here. But the stuff that they say, the conclusions on there from these talking heads, I mean, they just out of nowhere today said that Donald Trump is using the White House to enrich himself. They said things. I got lost track. I got out a pen and paper and I started to write some of it down, but I just lost track. I put in the Facebook post earlier. I decided to watch some CNN this morning, and it's mental torture. The thought of our countrymen thinking this is unbiased news is deeply concerning. And I guess that's kind of where I land. That's why it's not the same thing, because there are people that look at CNN and they say, oh, here is the truth, this is unbiased news, and it's really not. I mean, it's not even close. It's laughable to assume that it is. And the media all of a sudden now, with a straight face, wants the rest of the country, meaning the country that didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, to take them seriously when they cared not at all about an out-of-control executive branch when Barack Obama was in power. Didn't care about it one bit. Ignored stories like Fast and Furious. Ignored the Benghazi lie. And, you had people that would go on their show all of the time, and it used the medium CNN or whatever to advance something that was later proven to be completely false and gets no coverage. Anyway, all that being said, I have a story here about the firing of James Comey, where we get a few comments from our two Arkansas senators, Senator John Bozeman and Senator Tom Cotton, in an interview presumably with the Democrat Gazette. Senator Tom Cotton said that Rosenstein is the deputy director under Jeff Sessions, said that they, quote, no longer had any confidence in him, meaning Comey. And Asked whether he agreed with President Donald Trump that Comey was not doing a good job, quote, Director Comey certainly broke with a lot of long-standing FBI protocols and traditions over the last 10 months, going back to his press conference in July. That's why he'd received so much criticism from both sides of the aisle at different times. Again, that's Tom Cotton. Now, Senator Cotton brings up an excellent point. We haven't talked about it at all, but I know that you've heard it. Chuck Schumer, Bernie Sanders, and other big Democrats have gone out of their way in the past to question whether or not Comey should remain in office and have said that they've lost confidence in him. At the same time, Chuck Schumer, this Rosenstein guy, the Deputy Attorney General, Chuck Schumer had a lot of confidence in him. And now maybe not so much. There's a ton of hypocrisy out here that's not getting covered because the media is so obsessed with hoping, wanting, praying that the Russians had something to do with the outcome of the election. Because, you see, the media was rejected. Their power was shown to be not as influential as they all like to think they are. That's when I saw those talking heads this morning. I just thought, man, they must really feel good about themselves. But I think that's the main thing they're concerned about, is to just consistently deny that our authority over what the American people think was found to be wanting, was found to be lacking back in November, and now they're just, I guess, doubling down on all of this. Of course, the media really doesn't have a choice but to double down on this in many regards. They just, because it's who they are. You know what I mean? It's like asking a zebra not to have stripes. That's who they are. That's how they've been educated to believe that. Really, they have now at this point been educated to parrot the just to parrot the people that they agree with. But it is a very good point that there was all of these hypocrisies going on, and people thinking, "Hey, James Comey is terrible." And I've tried to go back. and I've tried to remember how I felt back on the 4th of July weekend. Now remember this: James Comey went out there 4th of July weekend, and he cleared Hillary Clinton's name, but at the same time, he absolved her of any prosecution. Now, they're saying that this is what was a big no-no. It's what I believe Senator Cotton is referencing when he say long-standing FBI protocols and traditions, he broke with those, is what Senator Cotton is saying. I think that's a true statement as well. But see, at the time, I didn't know how to process this. If you go back and listen to clips of what I said back then, I thought that James Comey was trying to do the honorable thing. And there's a lot of people pointing to the hypocrisies of both the left and the right at this point because of what happened in July versus then what happened right before the election in October, where James Comey came out and said, oh, by the way, I've got all these new emails. The interesting thing here is if Comey hadn't come out and, quote, cleared Hillary Clinton's name, but at the same time indicted her by calling gross negligence extreme carelessness instead of gross negligence, which is what it was, then that kind of forced him, for his own self-preservation reasons, to have to come out right before the election just to make sure everybody knew he didn't try to cover that up. Because it's basically like he spoke in July, so he had to speak right before the election because of new developments. If he hadn't have spoken in July, he wouldn't have had to speak. But here's the thing. I don't think any of that swayed the election. Maybe the July thing could have possibly, but that's so far out. How are you going to... I mean, people had their minds made up whether Comey was coming out or not, in my opinion. I think Pennsylvania had their mind made up before Comey came out right before the election. I think Michigan had their mind made up before Comey came out right before the election. I really do. It's possible that I'm wrong and that it discouraged Hillary supporters from showing up to vote. That is possible. I mean, because who wants to go vote for somebody who is, this close from being proven a criminal? So that's part of it as well. You know the big story, though, and this is a narrative that I really haven't heard anybody say. I think the big story is that now that James Comey has been fired, and part of the reasoning for his firing, they have cited the way he handled that whole thing last year, is that now the path has been cleared to go after Hillary Clinton and the email scandal and everything and the Podesta email. I mean, just think about that for a second. I think that's why the media is really worried at this point. I think that's why the establishment, just they refer to it as the deep state. I think that's why they're really worried right now. It's because now that James Comey is gone, if Jeff Sessions wants to go after Hillary Clinton, if he wants to, form a grand jury, I've heard, or do, subpoena them, find out what they knew when they knew it, he's kind of got the path open to do that now. Now, whether or not he's going to, I do not know. I really don't know. This whole thing is what bugs me more than anything is that the people, the talking heads, the media who are in these positions of power, so they thought, so they think now, is that this all makes perfect sense to them. Maybe some of them consciously understand what they're doing, lying to the American people. But I think a lot of them, they think it makes complete sense. But to me, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. Hillary Clinton, and I've said this many times, she was going to get in a much bigger conflict than Donald Trump got into in Syria. Much larger. Was very anti-Russia, even though that whole uranium deal made her pretty much, pro-Russia. And so because of that, because Donald Trump won, they automatically assume, well, the Russians must have helped because they had an interest in seeing Donald Trump get elected. I think it's just, it's so simple to see the, I don't know, it's just such an elementary level of thinking. Well, he had to have had help because we don't dare want to admit that, ideas have consequences and the American people rejected them. Okay, back to this story. All right, hang on. Keep going down there. We get Senator John Boozman. Quote, you could make the case that he was a distraction, referring to Comey, and that there's other people that are equally qualified that perhaps don't have the baggage that he's had that could fill that slot, and then we just wouldn't have to worry about it, Boozman said. I think that's the situation that we're in, as opposed to some nefarious reason. Okay, that's John Boozman. He added, I think he was doing what he felt was best for the country and was put in situations that were almost no-win situations. Yeah, it's so hilarious when you think about it. The media is so obsessed with the Russia thing. They want you to think this is the next Watergate. I heard that. You could compare him to Richard Nixon and Watergate and all this stuff. And that he fired Comey to cover up, because he knew he was about to get pinched in some grand discovery, some grand find that somebody was going to make about proof that Russia was a real thing and Russia actually had something to do with all of this. That's what they're pushing now. But the reality is the Democrats didn't like Comey. You had Stephen Colbert's audience reacting positively. I mean, because they thought this guy was responsible for Donald Trump. And now, according to the media, he's responsible. Comey is their best friend, and Comey was sticking up for, the Constitution, and that Comey was investigating Trump, even though Trump said he wasn't. But a lot of the mainstream media narrative has already collapsed because you had this McCabe guy who testified today. Can we cue this up, Joe? Listen, this is McCabe. He's now the acting FBI director, and he's asked by Marco Rubio a question. Listen, Marco Rubio, let's ask. So he's asked by Marco Rubio this question. Take a listen.
American people want to know, has the dismissal of Mr. Comey in any way impeded, interrupted, stopped, or negatively impacted any of the work, any investigation, or any ongoing projects at the Federal Bureau of Investigations?
As you know, Senator, the work of the men and women of the FBI continues despite any changes in circumstance, any decisions. So there has been no effort to impede our investigation to date.
All right.
But simply put, sir, you cannot stop the men and women of the FBI from doing the right thing, protecting the American people, and upholding the Constitution.
All right, so he says no, essentially, hasn't been impeded. Okay, let's go to the next one when he's asked if, because this is the story I heard nonstop this morning when I was forcing myself to the mental torture of watching CNN. And what I heard was Comey had just asked for more money. He had just asked for additional resources to investigate the Russian problem, and then he was fired. Donald Trump's trying to cover it up, blah, 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 blah. Well, that question got asked of the acting FBI director, McCabe. Listen. Do you have it? Sorry.
Your impression at this point that the FBI is unable to complete the investigation in a fair and expeditious way because of the removal of Jim Comey?
It is my opinion and belief that the FBI will continue to pursue this investigation vigorously and completely.
Do you need somebody to take this away from you and somebody else to do it?
No, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so that clip in and of itself was Lankford there. He was trying to say, hey, do we need an independent counsel? Okay, but then you get the next clip, which is the one that I really think just destroyed what the Washington Post said, and CNN saying they had 30 anonymous sources that this was about more money for the Russia investigation. Go ahead, Joe.
Are you aware of that request? Can you confirm that that request was in fact made?
I cannot confirm that request was made. As you know, ma'am, when we need resources, we make those requests here. So I don't, I'm not aware of that request, and it's not consistent with my understanding of how we request additional resources. That said, we don't typically request resources for an individual case. And as I mentioned, I strongly believe that the Russia investigation is adequately resourced.
So he's saying that if you want more money, you actually go to Congress. And I had somebody that kind of pointed this out. So I just said, McCabe just said the FBI doesn't go to the Justice Department to ask for more money for any specific investigation. He said if they wanted more money, they have to go to Congress. CNN will ignore this because what they have been reporting exposes them as not understanding the basic concept of how government is funded through Congress. Now, before we go to break, I want you to know, all real estate agents out there, the Northeast Arkansas Real Estate School does offer continuing education classes for your local boards of realtors, local offices, and they'll even offer discounts for larger groups. They'll come to you, they'll set up shop anywhere in Arkansas, and they'll make learning fun and motivating. The Northeast Arkansas Real Estate School is licensed by the Arkansas Real Estate Commission. They must adhere to the rules and regulations. And I would just say, give them a call today. And if you mention my name, Paul, you get 10% off the cost of your class. You mention my name, Paul, get 10% off. 870-336-4155. That's 870-336-4155. You can find it about class times. You could also figure out, with 6 days of class, you can get your real estate license. If you're not a real estate agent, you can get your real estate license by going to neaprofessionalschools.com. That's neaprofessionalschools.com. Mention my name, Paul. Receive 10% off. Back in a moment.
2May PC Repair offers customer service and support from anywhere. Need help setting up a new computer or getting rid of frustrating viruses? Let 2May PC Repair help with computer networking, laptop repairs, or software installation. 2May PC Repair can upgrade your computer's memory to make it more responsive to your commands. And yes, even new computers can perform better than new after our computer setup and optimization service. Call 2May PC Repair today at 870-257-4444 or visit them on the web at twomeypcrepair.com.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, Contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
Who's next to Zipline?
Me, and I'm really excited about this.
Sir, I'm sorry. The Zipline has a 350-pound weight limit, and frankly, I do not think it would be safe for you.
Oh, that's okay. I self-identify as 180 pounds, so it's cool.
Sir, that doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm afraid we can't let you ride the Zipline. You're too heavy. I'm sorry.
I can't believe this. I thought we had evolved as a society. I thought this was America, but I guess this is just my plight. First slavery, and now fat shaming.
Sir, again, I'm really sorry.
You listen to me. If you don't let me ride, not only will I sue this company for discrimination, I will sue you for damages because right now my feelings are so hurt and I feel embarrassed because I'm holding up the line.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Watch it, mister.
Look, okay, I'm sorry. I just don't think it would be safe for you.
You don't understand. I self-identify as skinny. So you have to let me ride the zip line. The Constitution says so. I get to define my own reality.
Okay, fine, whatever. Ride the zip line. Mike, let this man ride the zip line.
Thank you. Now watch as my self-identity trumps your bigotry. See you on the other side, racist. Here I go! Doctor, thank goodness. What's the prognosis?
Sir, we've done everything we can, and you only have seconds to live.
No, you cannot say that. I do not self-identify as a dead person.
PHP Parody. Broadcasting across Arkansas and holding politicians accountable for what they say and do. The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Just as I predicted, I mean, the headlines 24 hours ago were starting to trickle out about Governor Asa Hutchinson and him bringing in the Chinese Rui Shandong technology company. And of course, the headlines are very positive for everybody that believes in this philosophy of economic government and wants to take immediate credit for using taxpayer dollars to give away to companies. Chinese plan to bring up to 800 jobs to Arkansas, yarn plant to use Arkansas cotton. And it just basically, gets into more specifics, obviously, than the last time. But Chinese textile manufacturer will hire up to 800 workers at a new plant in Forest City while also promoting Arkansas-grown cotton. Governor Asa Hutchinson and leaders of the company announced Wednesday. So the first thing that all these government incentives get is positive publicity for our leaders. At American holidays, and she was like, wow, like that's somehow offensive, but you're just using the same logic on her. You're using the same level of racism on her.
Yeah.
And I really think that's what this is. It's just like, well, you're a white guy wearing a poncho, so you must be racist.
Apparently, because at this point, if you're white, you're racist in general. Like, there's not even... Most people don't even think twice about it.
Yeah, have you seen that video? Oh, man, I think it was during the Trump election, and there's some guy, and he uses some choice language, but he's a white guy himself. And he looks at another guy and says, "You're a white male." Like, he's on the progressive side. This other guy's a Trump supporter, and he's talking about things, and he just says, "You're a white male." Like, that is, like, argument's over. I brought up the fact that you're a white male, so you don't have, basically,
you have no voice.
You don't have rights. You're a white male. You can't say that, man. Okay, so you're white. You don't have rights. It's very strange. Okay,
I don't remember anywhere in the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, or anywhere in the Constitution does it say that white men don't have rights.
It was written by white men.
And there's the
that was our that's their whole thing. Well, that was our base. We started with white people having rights, and now because we take our morality today and want to force it on previous generations, the whole system has to be bad because we are now more evolved. Matter of fact, this is what I really think about all this stuff. You see somebody, anybody, white, black, whatever, they're doing something you disagree with, and it triggers you so much that you go up and accost them, you interview them, you try to make them feel bad about themselves. It's so ironic because they are trying to advance. They're in a very fascistic way, they are trying to advance this idea and this notion that they have the moral high ground. You heard a guy even say moral superiority. And yet, all of this is really out of a place where because you have a certain color of the skin, you don't have an opinion. And the reason that's ironic is we are using what we think is moral superiority in spite of itself, because what I actually believe is that if we really logistically boil it all down, one party in this politically correct craziness, if they had a button to push, I think they would just push the button that took the existence away from the other side. I really believe that. It's very ironic to me, but because that's where I see we're going. We're going to a place where, when the line of thinking is so fascistic that eventually you get to the point where he won't quit wearing the poncho. He won't quit wearing the poncho. Well, let's just kill everybody that won't quit wearing the poncho. It'll be a lot easier. It'll make me feel better.
Well, let me get it. Let me say something. You said he won't quit wearing the poncho. Well, I can't stop being white. I'm sorry. Like, my skin tone will be that way. I can get tan, but I will still be white.
There's not some sort of reverse Michael Jackson scenario that we could... Of course, then you'd really be racist because you'd be painting yourself, like darker skin or going full blackface.
Exactly.
You can't do that.
Nope.
All right. Yeah, so you're right. You can't, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm white. I can't stop being that. That's just who I am.
Yep. Well, maybe you just shouldn't exist then. That's their philosophy. I really think that's their... They wouldn't say that, obviously.
No.
Okay, I don't think they consciously think that. But their line of thinking is what leads to...
If you take it to the extreme, it goes to that point.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. All right, keep going with the audio.
Fighting dependency on government so Arkansas can be the land of opportunity once again. Paul Harrell is on now.
All right, now we're going to shift gears. We're going to go on over to conduitforaction.org. They've got some great stories up if you haven't seen it. Number one, you need to go over and subscribe if you haven't done that. It's very easy. Go to conduitforaction.org. On the right side of the page there, you put your email address in and you hit subscribe. And when you do that, you will be updated every time there's a new story. You'll get the email, so you don't have to remember to go to the website every single time. You'll be able to go when there's something new. But I would encourage, if you do want to go to the website and you don't know much about the, the underground, I don't know what to say. Underground is not the word. We need to come up with a word for this. Because, see, there's the spin. Let me say this. If you want to get beneath the spin of the establishment Arkansas Republican Party, you need to go to conduitforaction.org and just start reading. And read and read and read. I mean, just you get down to the bottom of the page, you click page 2, page 3, page 4, and just read all of these articles. They tell you what has been happening in the session. They tell you what happened in the last session, in the fiscal session, over and over and over. And you will be a very, very educated person on what really goes on, where the real special interests are. And you'll quickly discover that a lot of what's actually been going on here in the state is that liberty has been contracting, government has been growing, and they want more of our money. But so they got a couple of new articles, 3 of them actually. Let me go to this one because this is the most recent one, and because I think this one comes up with a new phrase that many people would love to use, but I think those in leadership wouldn't actually mean it. It's a phrase you've heard before, no doubt, but the phrase is tax relief. Tax relief. Now, tax relief would best be felt with a tax cut, all right? No doubt about it. But we read for you a few weeks ago a speech, editorial by Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky, where he said revenue-neutral tax cuts are not actually tax cuts because revenue-neutral tax cuts still put the same amount of money into Washington, D.C. or into Little Rock, and the only way to drain the swamp is to stop or decrease the amount of money that's going to fund their big government crony schemes, okay? It's a really good point. So what do we want as limited government conservatives? Well, the one thing that small business owners want, the one thing that people who are at entry-level jobs now that have all this ambition, all this motivation, that are learning skills and want to start their own business, you want something called relief. And the relief means that right now you are in pain. It means that right now you are in some sort of anguish, and there is a source to that anguish. There's a source to that pain, or there's a source to that, uncomfortableness. Is that a word? Is uncomfortableness a word? And many people might not even realize that they're uncomfortable until the boot of government is actually lifted, right? So let's read this commentary over at conduitforaction.org. The Arkansas Tax Reform and Relief Legislative Task Force. Now, I'm going to say it right because it's written in the article correctly, but we call it the tax farce, okay? The Tax Reform, Relief, and Legislative Tax Farce. But I will say it right for the purposes of this article. The Arkansas Tax Reform and Relief Legislative Task Force was created by the 2017 Arkansas General Assembly. There has been much buzz about the new task force. The membership of the task force has been appointed and work should begin soon. There is no doubt the legislators on the task force will work hard for positive change. But if you are hoping the task force will be focused on recommending the lowering of Arkansas's high tax burden, you are in for disappointment. The task force name includes the word relief, but don't expect the overall tax burden on Arkansans to go down. Now think about that for a second. The task force name includes the word relief. Arkansas Tax Reform and Relief. That's a good word to use. Will it actually be relief? Will it actually be one way now? You're taking X amount of dollars away from us today, and it hurts. And we want relief from the X amount of dollars you're taking from us now. And will that get scaled back to Y, which is different, and we will feel relief, not just in this group or that group or this group, but all groups? That is the question. Relief. Instead of being about lowering tax burden, the task force is about tax shifting and hopefully some fairness within the overall tax system. Some members of the task force will want to lower the tax burden, but they do not have the essential tool necessary to do that. The missing tool is limiting state spending. Let me say that again. The missing tool, if you want tax relief, is to have Republicans in power that actually limit spending. And, they'll actually be concerned when spending has increased. You have to cut the budget. You won't try to spend this. I mean, can we talk about how the Republican Party of Arkansas, Senators Jim Hendren, Governor Asa Hutchinson, are in complete spend control. They are in complete spend control along with Senator Jonathan Dismang. The man had to cut $70 million because he didn't have the revenue coming in. And he said, well, it's a revenue problem, not a spending problem, when he's increased spending on the books almost $500 million. in the combined 3 years that he's been governor. And he doesn't have a spending problem, though. Now, come on. This is what's so funny to me. Oh, well, we're all conservatives here. We're all conservatives. We just disagree on Arkansas Works versus doing nothing. It's just one issue, but we're all conservatives here. We're all conservatives here. We just disagree on the Second Amendment. But we're all conservatives. We just disagree whether or not people should be, we think there should be an extra class of a new concealed carry license, an extra elevated concealed carry license, more red tape, more regulations for you to jump through to exercise your Second Amendment right. That's what they passed down there. But we're all conservatives. It's just this one issue on the Second Amendment we differ from. Hey, we're all conservatives here. We're all conservatives. It's just that we differ on when to do tax reform. You guys want to do it now when there's a full 135-member General Assembly down here, but we want to whittle that down to about 15 people, and we want to study it in the interim, and we want predetermined results, and we'll get to our tax reform. We're going to make sure they're revenue-neutral tax cuts, but we're all conservatives here. We just differ on, this one little tax thing. We're all conservatives here. We just differ on the religious freedom bill. We just differ on that just a little bit. A lot of LGBT, RSTLNEQ, would you like to buy a vowel protesters down here. They're putting a lot of pressure on the Republican governor to not sign the bill that he supported and even flipped Democrat votes to support for. It's just one issue, though. We're all conservatives. We're all conservatives, though. How many times does that have to happen, ladies and gentlemen? How many times before somebody, and nobody in the mainstream media is going to do it, the mainstream media is hoping all the progressive ideas that the Republicans are pursuing right now crash and burn so that they can then shill for Democrats. Because they'd rather Democrats be in power because they more agree with Democrats. That's what they're waiting for. They'll claim conservatism has been tried when the big government Republicans' idea fails, like cutting taxes and increasing spending by $500 million. When those ideas fail, the mainstream media will call Asa a conservative in the paper. We tried it the conservative way. We tried it the conservative. Everybody talks about how conservatives love to spend more and more every year and lower taxes and never shrink the size of government. I've told you about this for many times. That's how Barack Obama waltzed into the Oval Office, partly because the media said that George W. Bush governed conservatively. We tried it his way when George W. Bush, we've even said it this week, grew government tremendously until Obama got in office. Sorry, it's frustrating to me, and it's kind of all hitting me at once, but they are in such spin control, trying to defend the fact that they had to cut the budget $70 million this year, $43 million next year, and they have the audacity to tell you that they don't have a spending problem, they have a revenue problem? It's just funny to me. I guess the person that I can't, the person that I keep thinking about, and this is because, well, whatever, I'm not going to get into it, but Senator Jim Hendren, okay? So Senator Jim Hendren, he's the nephew number one. He's the governor's, he's the majority leader. He pushes everything. Most of everything he wants, he gets. In many cases, and I've seen it on the floor now. I've seen it in the Joint Budget Committee. I saw it in the Judiciary Committee. He doesn't really like to argue points. He likes to argue just quite frankly, in a very cheap way, and I'm not really sure why. Because if you really believe what you believe, and you just have the arguments to back it up, you don't have to say, you don't have to pull. Well, essentially, you don't support the troops if you don't support the veterans tax cut bill when you're being asked to raise taxes. You don't have to do those types of things. You don't have to say when Brian King asks you in joint budget, are you concerned that we don't have a surplus, but we used to have a surplus? And your response is, well, are you wanting to raise our taxes to where we have a surplus? Just completely ignoring. Of course he doesn't want to raise taxes. He's pointing out a fact, and you are so connected with trying to not make Asa look bad that you just don't even have an honest conservative argument anymore based on the things that we all agree on, right? We all agree on. You don't want to say we were here and now we're here, and it's not like you can go blame Mike Beebe for spending this money, right? It's not like you can go blame the Democrats who are in leadership for spending this money, because there are no Democrats. Well, there still kind of are. They like to switch to Republicans and then call themselves a Republican immediately lead the church and, or immediately sing in the choir, which doesn't make any sense. But it's just, it's so transparently obvious that Governor Hutchinson has moved Republicans to the left. He has moved Republican senators to the left. He has moved Republican representatives to the left. The Democratic Party in Arkansas, why are they not calling for Jake Files' resignation? If they were at the level of discomfort they should be at, if we were actually cutting taxes and actually slashing the size of government, if we were actually getting out of Obamacare Medicaid expansion, if we were actually treating, if we were actually doing the things that we all said we agreed with back in 2010, the Democratic Party would have had 3 press conferences by now asking Senator Jake Files to resign. And that is, that's an easy speculation that's pretty accurate. But they're not. If the Democrat Party was at the level of discomfort they should be at based on what Republicans say they believe in, what the platform says, and the massive amount of support that you have from the people of Arkansas that, are against the bureaucrats and against the special interests, but tough, then John Brummett would be writing critical articles at a much higher pace. You would have a lot more discomfort from the left. But instead, I could show you, ladies and gentlemen, article after article of leftist columnists praising what's going on down there. John Brummett credits Asa with saving Medicaid expansion. And and he did criticize him for, trying to execute those people, or he did execute 4 of them. But you know what I mean? It's just, if anybody were to look at how, for some reason, all of the battles that the average voter thinks are important are all of a sudden not important down there to these guys, you'd say, wow, there's something off here. When we read that letter from Governor Asa Hutchinson, where he uses that fundraising letter that he sent out, how many times did he use the word conservative? He used it at least twice, talked about our conservative goals or our conservative principles, our conservative policy. Asa Hutchinson is not a conservative. He's not a conservative, folks. I don't know how to explain that any clearer. Governor Asa Hutchinson is not a conservative. He doesn't know how to go and actually go to the podium. Because I have noticed the Arkansas press, they really are, man. They are, in many cases, they are such leftists with their questions. And I'll tell you how I really realized it. When they had the campus carry press conference where the governor signed the campus carry bill, but then immediately brought Jonathan Dismang up to the podium to say how they were correcting the stadium thing. So the NRA supported it, but then they had to not support the undermining of the bill they did support. NRA just really, really had egg all over their face because they decided to go to the wire with Asa, and Asa essentially, he was, I guess, he got on a lifeboat and left them on the Titanic, essentially. But their questions were so hostile, they were just so leftist and so anti-Second Amendment. It was amusing to me. I was in the room. I was listening to all of this. I was thinking, wow, these guys really are leftists. And Governor Hutchinson doesn't know, because Governor Hutchinson doesn't believe in conservative enough to be able to know how to take those questions on the fly and give a principled, conservative response, whether it's a constitutional assertion, whether it's a free market assertion, whether it's a pro-small business assertion. Now, he knows how to go out and talk to the Chinese and be pro-business, be pro-big business, but not understanding that Your small businesses are where it's at. Their growth is what you're going to see long-term yields from the people. It's just really, really sad. Real quick, before we go. This was all I was supposed to. I wanted to read this article. I'm sorry. This kind of just set me off. Conduit for action. Here's why you shouldn't expect the task force to have any impact on Arkansas's overall tax burden. All the goals listed for the task force are about tax shifting, other than the goal of modernizing, whatever that is, and simplifying the tax code. This year, Governor Asa Hutchinson opposed tax cuts that would require budget cuts. The governor and many legislators still want to raise more tax money. The governor wants to use even more taxpayer money for bonds to give incentives to big businesses. The state budget process is not about holding down costs, but eliminating wasteful or low-priority spending. Instead, the budget process is geared to give agencies an across-the-board increase. We expect there to be some tax relief in 2019, but not because of a task force recommendation. Instead, tax relief will be based on the same plan used year after year. Every 2 years, Arkansas politicians fund some small tax cut by essentially tithing back a small percentage of revenue growth while keeping most of the new money to grow government. In addition, in some years, such as 2017, tax cuts for a select group are made by raising other taxes, which we saw in digital downloads and candy and soda. I'm going to take a break, come back, finish this up before the hour is over. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. Back in a moment.
Whether you're looking for a small desktop copier and printer, thinking about adding color to your documents, or considering a document management solution, Total Document Solutions is there to help. In business for decades, Total Document Solutions is an independently owned company that specializes in the ability to provide a high level of service in Northwest Arkansas, the Arkansas River Valley, Southwest Missouri, and Southeast Kansas as an exclusive Platinum Authorized Sales Agent for the Xerox Corporation. At Total Document Solutions, they offer customers technology services to improve business results. Their dedicated sales team has the unmatched industry knowledge, professionalism, and expertise needed to address the unique challenges of your business. Total Document Solutions is independent, local, and well-connected to serve your office products and document needs. Call them today at 479-575-0770. That's 479-575-0770 for your Total Document Solutions. Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to talk radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
All right, so tax relief is a thing. People want tax relief. We were just talking about that, and you got Arkansas and the Arkansas task farce that they're going to get real conservative ideas. Over at Conduit for Action, finishing this up, the legislation establishing the task force lists its goals, what they hope to accomplish, except for the goal of modernizing and simplifying the tax code. Every goal has to do with tax shifting. So remember, a revenue-neutral tax cut is not really a tax cut. Here's from the legislation. The purpose of the task force is to examine and identify areas of potential reform within the tax laws of the state of Arkansas and to recommend legislation to the General Assembly for consideration during the 2019 regular session in order to A, modernize and simplify, B, make the Arkansas tax laws competitive with other states in order to attract businesses to the state, C, create jobs for Arkansans, and D, ensure fairness to all individuals and entities impacted by the tax laws of the state of Arkansas. Now, see, fairness to all individuals and entities, I mean, the Democrat Party can just, they can get on a stump and talk about their progressive income tax all they want, which will make it extremely hard for us to implement like an actual flat tax or a consumption tax instead of an income tax. I wonder if somebody asks, maybe they have. I'd love for the next interview that Asa Hutchinson does, hey, is elimination of the income tax, can you commit to eliminating the income tax? I mean, if we're really going to do massive reform, can we do like Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin suggests and actually start over with a blank sheet of paper and actually reform? It goes on. Did they need to create an Arkansas Tax Reform and Relief Legislative Task Force? No. Force? No. The legislature already has a committee with the duty to study Arkansas taxes. It's called the House and Senate Committees on Revenue and Tax, and they meet jointly between legislative sessions. The study to be done by the task force is not some novel idea. In the past, plenty of studies have been done by or for the legislature, and consultants make money. So what about all those recommendations? Most recommendations just end up on a shelf. The creation of legislative task forces tend to be more for public relations, but public relations or not, we hope good comes out of the task force hearings. Again, I do too. I hope I eat crow. I hope it's not a farce. I really do. Governor Asa Hutchinson told the public that it's not conservative to give a tax break and fund it with a budget cut. Sounds like limiting the budget is off the table. When the governor made that statement, he was referring to legislation to give a tax break for military retirement income and for the soft drink industry. The legislation included several taxes to offset the tax breaks. Some legislators refused to vote for the new taxes. He claimed their position was not conservative because it would require a budget cut, and you thought being conservative meant limiting government. The governor continues to express support for increasing the tax burden on Arkansans through 1, a proposed sales tax on your online purchases from out-of-state sellers, 2, an increase in the taxes on gasoline to be used for highways, plus he wants more of your tax money for bonds to give big incentives to corporations. The governor's focus appears to be on increasing the overall tax burden, not reducing it. Let me say that again. Look at what he supported this last legislative session and tell me I'm wrong. We will see. It's a great article. It's over at conduitforaction.org. I'll finish it up when we get back. Don't go anywhere. Back in a minute.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Wow.
No, get out.
They won't act morally superior to you just because
being so insensitive.
Can I please talk to them?
so insensitive.
I'd like to talk with you guys.
No, they're just talking down now.
It's gonna be reasonable.
We can talk.
We're being reasonable, I feel like.
Guys,
let me talk to them.
No, Mike, stop. This is a waste of time.
Yeah.
This is retarded.
I want to make
it's
a...
what?
Let's go.
And now we're using the R word.
Stop. Yes. You can take, like, this is the product of taking one issue, and you can now predict their entire worldview. A guy says this is retarded, and she says, what? It's what?
This is what arguments amongst, unfortunately, my generation has come to, where people would have a discussion of ideas, or in this case, an argument, which is not even a discussion of ideas, and you literally get to the point where you berate someone to the point where they say something just because they're really, like, they're just so thrown off balance by this whole scenario. They say something, and then you just jump all over it, and you just capitalize on it, and you just make them look like a horrible human being.
I wish somewhere someone would take videos like this that they're out there, not just based on the Poncho and Cinco de Mayo, but on all these issues. And I wish there was a graduating high school senior. I know most of the graduations have already happened or they're going to be happening. I wish whoever gives the speech would say, we got a lot of fun bickering over social justice to do. We got 4 years of getting rid of our white guilt, and we've got 4 years to perfect ourselves to ascend to this mountaintop of progressive utopia, and everything's going to be great.
And when you walk into your first class in college, remember, check your privilege at the door.
Yeah, exactly. Like just be so ridiculous, because that's exactly what college is now. You're no longer really debating, the issues that are really important or philosophy. You're now you're actually taking away respect. You're taking away the benefit of the doubt by saying just because you must have been raised by white parents that are racist, that are prejudiced, and it's really a shame. And matter of fact, I was talking to somebody who was on used to go to Arkansas campus and was in a fraternity, and they were saying, "Oh, you wouldn't believe it. They would have meetings with the fraternity saying you shouldn't dress up like this. Even in Arkansas, this is an acceptable thing." Where we're trying to be so careful about offending someone else. And that is why people rioted when Donald Trump got elected, because they lost for the first time, but they also were so offended as well, and they don't know how to handle disappointment. They don't know how to handle not getting a participation trophy. They don't know how to handle these things. All right, I want to keep going with the audio, because eventually this guy with the poncho, he speaks up for himself, makes some good points.
You need to get a dictionary.
All right, guys. You shouldn't say them. It's insensitive. What's the deal? Why do you have a problem with me?
Because the Mexican culture, like a poncho, is like for Mexican people, and like their heritage. Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
That's what you're representing.
Yes, they are the people.
Are they the only people to ever wear a poncho?
No, but what I'm saying is, like, it's Cinco de Mayo, right? It's like all related to Mexico, and you're representing them, and you're not representing.
I'm not representing anyone.
You're perpetuating the stereotype that Mexicans drink and wear ponchos for a living. That's what you're doing. And you also have to keep in mind the racial tension that's happening right now, where your president claims that Mexicans only come here, drink, and steal your jobs. So you're perpetuating that idea and the stereotypes that are associated with it. Yes, you are. By wearing this, you're making a statement.
I wore this
last year is not clear. Last year is still. Racism has been here.
Because it's Cinco de Mayo, right? You don't wear this every day.
No.
So then you're not appreciating the culture, you're appropriating it. There's a difference.
I appreciate every culture for being
No, you're not appreciating it.
You can't talk for me. You're wrong.
I'm not talking for you. I'm being honest
You're
with you.
saying I'm wrong by saying that I don't appreciate other cultures. I do.
The difference between appreciating and appropriating.
Because you're taking advantage.
You're making them a costume. How is that not appropriating something?
What are you talking about?
You're dressing as what stereotypical Mexican would be like instead of appreciating their culture.
And I'm having fun, and it's an excuse.
And celebration includes drinking and dressing like a different kind of person.
Yes.
No, that is not celebrating someone. That's humiliating them. What are you talking
I'm not
about?
trying to be a different kind of person. I am dressing for fun because I'm having fun.
Why couldn't you just dress like, what's your name? What's your name?
Mike.
Why couldn't you just dress as Mike? Why does Mike have to wear a poncho to celebrate Cinco de Mayo? That's the point.
Mike wears whatever he wants.
That's the point. Why can't Mike just be Mike on Cinco de Mayo?
Exactly
Why
right.
does Mike
Stop
have to
right
wear...
there. You fascists.
I got a couple
Mike wears what he wants to wear because he is a free man. That's why Mike wears a poncho. Mind your own business.
I got a few things to say. First off, I love how they automatically assume he voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
There's no context.
Well, he's a white guy.
There's no context to suggest that he voted for Donald Trump, but they said your president. They didn't say the president. They said your president. They automatically assumed that he voted for Donald Trump. Second, okay, so if they're going to get all up in arms about him wearing a poncho Cinco de Mayo, then they should really get all up in arms about St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, that's a great point.
Because
but there's not a weird bunch of Irish victims running around trying to victimize themselves. I'm sorry. I keep going. I mean, when I say weird, I just mean, this is just not compatible with the concepts of American liberty. That's what I say weird. That's what I mean.
Okay, but still, they should get all up in arms about other holidays.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. There's a tragedy that is out of Yell County, Arkansas. We have a deputy who has been killed in the line of duty. State police have identified the man taken into custody as James Michael Bowden, age 32, and he is a suspect in the death of Lieutenant Mainhart and two unidentified women. Lieutenant Kevin C. Mainhart, age 46, was killed in Yell County Thursday morning, and the bodies of two other people were found at a nearby home, according to Bill Sadler with the Arkansas State Police. Suspect was holed up inside a home for hours before being arrested Thursday afternoon. Lieutenant Mainhart had served in the Yell County Sheriff's Office for 5 years. He had previously served with the West Memphis Police Department for more than 20 years. We've got some audio here courtesy of rivervalleyleader.com, a Facebook Live video. Here's a spokesperson, Bill Sadler, from the Arkansas State Police earlier today. Listen in.
Good morning. I'm Bill Sadler, Public Information Officer for the Arkansas State Police. I won't be able to give you a lot of information since this is a case that is still playing out at this moment. So you'll have to bear with us. We will make you aware of the facts as quickly as we can get them to you. But to tell you what we have at this particular hour that we can confirm, first of all, involves the death of a Yell County Sheriff's deputy. And before beginning this briefing, we want to acknowledge that death. And as we enter the National Law Enforcement Memorial Week for law enforcement officers across this country, what happened today once again highlights the dangers that are facing law enforcement officers across this country. This deputy checked in for duty this morning, not even realizing that this would be his last call. Our hearts are saddened, and we are in prayer for his family and officers who were his comrades that served and protect this county. To give you some insight as to what did play out, at approximately 7:18 this morning, a Yell County Sheriff's deputy initiated a traffic stop at the junction of State Highway 27 and Slow Fork Road. During the course of the traffic stop, the deputy was fatally wounded. The deputy had been en route to a disturbance call at 10024 Gum Springs Road, not far from the location of that traffic stop. In a very short period of time after making the stop, a civilian passerby notified law enforcement that a deputy had been shot at the site of the traffic stop, and as I've indicated, the deputy was later pronounced dead at the Dardanelle Hospital this morning. Upon law enforcement beginning to follow through with what was playing out based on some initial information received by the Sheriff's Department, officers proceeded to the Gum Springs Road address At that location, the bodies of 2 individuals were found outside that residence. At this moment, the suspect has been identified, and he is in a residence. Arkansas State Police negotiators are attempting to make contact with this individual. The Arkansas State Police has been requested by the Sheriff's Department to conduct an investigation and prepare a criminal case file to be presented to the prosecuting attorney.
All right, so that's that is Bill Sadler there from the Arkansas State Police that you hear earlier in the from earlier in the day, talking about the death of Kevin Mainhart, Yale County Sheriff's Lieutenant, at 2:55, or I guess around 3 o'clock today. You heard Bill Sadler there. He was talking about a standoff, basically, between law enforcement and James Bowden. That's the guy's name. The man who shot and killed, according to River Valley leader Kevin Mainhart, as well as 2 others, has surrendered. That was the last update about 2 hours ago. So anyway, this is just terrible story, such a tragedy, and our thoughts and our prayers are with the family, his colleagues, his deputies, everybody else on the sheriff's department. It's just a terrible thing. As I'm looking at some of these aerial photos here, we've got SWAT vehicles, as well as just the aerial photos that show the residents and everybody surrounding the residents. So it's just one of those. I didn't even know. I didn't know that this was. This weekend was a time to remember officers. Isn't that what he said? I'm pretty sure it's what he said. A memorial for officers. I thought it was just Mother's Day weekend. Folks, a telephone number to contribute to the conversation today, and you can do it via phone number, text message or phone call, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. At the beginning of the show, I asked you the question because I told you that I watched CNN for about 30 minutes this morning, and I didn't realize the mental anguish and torture that it would put me through. And so I asked you, I said, is this the way I feel when I watch CNN? Is this how liberals felt when they watched Fox News when Obama was president? And Keith in Craighead County, he texts into the show, and Keith writes, is this how liberals felt during the Obama presidency watching Fox News? He writes, I don't think so. I've seen more liberals on Fox than conservatives on CNN. That's a really good point, because I did notice that. I didn't articulate that in my comments last hour, but I did notice that. I just kept waiting. Is there an opposing view here? I had to watch the thing for like an hour before, it seemed like an hour, might have been more like 45 minutes before somebody could remotely even be considered for trying to denounce this whole Russian narrative thing and this whole idea that, hey, everybody wanted him fired. Even Democrats wanted him fired. Now they don't want him fired because it's just all a political circus. Man, the media. It's just so frustrating. We're going to take a moment. We're going to regroup. We're going to be back here in just a moment. We're going to pick back up with some of these tax articles, as well as we're going to talk about what a shell bill is. What's a shell bill? And, is it as harmless as, a seashell that you would find on the seashore? And last time I checked, that doesn't steal your money, right? Anyway, we got to take a break. Back in a minute.
2May PC Repair offers customer service and support from anywhere. Need help setting up a new computer or getting rid of frustrating viruses? Let 2May PC Repair help with computer networking, laptop repairs, or software installation. 2May PC Repair can upgrade your computer's memory to make it more responsive to your commands. And yes, even new computers can perform better than new after our computer setup and optimization service. Call 2May PC Repair today at 870-257-4444 or visit them on the web at TWOMEYPCrepair.com.
Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org and stand up for small business in Arkansas. Whether you're looking for a small desktop copier and printer, thinking about adding color to your documents, or considering a document management solution, Total Document Solutions is there to help. In business for decades, Total Document Solutions is an independently owned company that specializes in the ability to provide a high level of service in Northwest Arkansas, the Arkansas River Valley, Southwest Missouri, and Southeast Kansas as an exclusive Platinum Authorized Sales Agent for the Xerox Corporation. At Total Document Solutions, they offer customers technology services to improve business results. Their dedicated sales team has the unmatched industry knowledge, professionalism, and expertise needed to address the unique challenges of your business. Total Document Solutions is independent, local, and well-connected to serve your office products and document needs. Call them today at 479-575-0770. That's 479-575-0770 for your Total Document Solutions.
This is Common Sense and Liberty. I'm Donnie Copeland. The Republican Party of Arkansas has something called a platform, and it's basically what they believe. Things like lower taxes, right to own and bear arms, encouraging individual responsibility and initiative. Yet in this legislative session, we see Republicans fighting against the right to own and bear arms by amending over and over the campus carry bill. We see instead of lowering taxes and fees being raised 8 different times. We see the attack against individual responsibility and initiative by continuing to embrace Obamacare Medicaid expansion called Arkansas Works. So what we need is not conservatives or not Republicans, because those names don't seem to mean anything anymore. We need platform Republicans. This is Donnie Copeland for Common Sense and Liberty.
If you would like information about advertising or supporting the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media Group, call 870-275-9755. Join the fight against big government and advance the preservation of liberty by calling 870-275-9755. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group. You're listening to the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, the Paul Harrell Program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. You know, a managed service provider. Now, this is a phrase you may be unfamiliar with, but it's a phrase that has to do with protecting your business, believe it or not. Protecting your business, which means protecting your data. And, of course, I'm talking about my friends at iTex. They are the techs to trust. and it should be your first choice for cost-effective IT services. Everybody has a computer now, and everybody, including myself, throws their hands up in the air and is like, I don't know what to do from here. I've exhausted all of my tricks. I've turned the computer off and turned it back on, and I need help. That's essentially... I've actually joked with people before that's when you go to computer school that's all that they actually teach you. But no, in all seriousness, protecting your business means protecting your data. And if you're tired, if you're a business owner and you're tired of unpredictable and expensive spikes in IT spending, I want you to know that using iTex will prevent downtime. It will prevent loss of employee productivity when the downtime happens. And they can do it all with an affordable, predictable budget. And that's the thing. Being able to predict your IT spending is the goal here. iTex is the premier managed service provider for small and medium businesses because they help their clients put IT to work to earn your business more money. And you should contact them today for a free consultation at 870-336-9778, 870-336-9778, or visit them on the web, itexusa.com. That's itexusa.com, and read about all of the great stuff they can do for you and your business. All right, so we were going over this article here, and if you missed last hour, go get the podcast, because especially the back half of it, I kind of had enough of the pretending. I had enough of these Republicans who always seem to differ on the concern. I mean, it's now a pattern. It's no longer that we believe. It's no longer that our arguments, true platform Republicans and establishment Republicans, it's no longer that our arguments are just, well, we're just arguing over one issue. That used to be what they say. Oh, Medicaid expansion, private option. Do you just care about that one issue? No, now it's taxes. Now it's guns. Now it's religious freedom. And it just, oh my gosh, we now have a familiar crew, a familiar roster of the same names that are always, for the most part, on the opposite side of platform Republicans. Go figure. We now have a pattern, ladies and gentlemen, that is developing before our eyes. A pattern of governing with task forces, a pattern of not being platform Republicans, but still being in leadership and colluding with the Democrats and using the Democrats to your advantage because you know that they are not conservatives. Pretty sad. So last hour, we talked a lot about tax relief and how we need tax relief. And if you need tax relief, and the fact that the task force in the name, it uses the word relief, that implies that right now we are strained. That implies right now that we are under stress, that we are uncomfortable, that we need relief. And will they give that to us by taking less money from us? And the government, the end result is the government has less money than they have now. And the answer is no. No. Conduit for Action article, really good, about needing tax relief towards the middle of the article. Does this mean there won't be any tax relief? Referring to the task force. Some say some tax relief is likely with or without the task force because it happens every 2 years. Even while state government continues to grow, some tax relief is passed every regular session of the legislature. The tax relief over the past several years has followed the same old, long-standing mechanisms. Tax shifting creates some winners and some losers. For example, Governor Hutchinson's big tax shifting legislation of 2017 saw several tax increases to offset tax relief to military retirees and soft drink manufacturers. Number two, take a small percentage of the state's revenue growth and essentially tithe it back to the people in the form of small tax relief. This method lets politicians claim a policy of tax relief while using most new revenue to fund government growth. Former Governor Mike Beebe used this method several times for tax cuts, including incremental cuts in the sales tax on groceries that over a period of years amounted to major tax relief at the grocery store. Governor Hutchinson also used a small percentage of government growth in 2017 to fund some income tax relief for low-income taxpayers. Number 3, sometimes both revenue shifting and a tithe from revenue growth are used. Governor Hutchinson used the combined techniques to fund a small middle-class income tax cut in 2015. His tax shifting took away capital gains tax relief promised by the 2013 legislature. Later, during the session, the promised capital gains tax treatment was restored because of loud and continuous outcry from business owners. To make up part. Now, first of all, the fact that Asa Hutchinson wanted to raise your capital gains taxes means that he thinks rich people have it too good in Arkansas. And I put rich in quotation marks, by the way. Raising capital gains taxes. Good grief. Remember Charlie Gibson and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton in 2007? When he said the fact that every time capital gains taxes were decreased, the revenue into the government increased. And Barack Obama said, well, for purposes of fairness, I think the tax should be raised for purposes of fairness. Meaning, you got money, we need it. We're not going to let you. We're not going to let you have low capital. Never mind the fact that the low capital gain taxes go to reinvestment. It goes to creating jobs, expanding businesses. It's ridiculous. But in 2015, Governor Hutchinson tried and then had to restore your capital gains tax cut. To make up part of the revenue loss, the governor then reduced some budget items, and to make it hurt, some of the items included cuts for libraries and senior citizen centers. Of course, a lot of legislators felt that in specific areas. With or without the task force, the future item of tax relief that seems to be on everyone's agenda is some reduction in the income tax rates for middle-class taxpayers. I'm sorry, there are middle-class taxpayers who are in the highest tax bracket. Whether this will be funded from a tithe of government's revenue growth or whether some tax shifting will be included is yet to be seen. Budget cuts don't appear to be on the radar for funding tax cuts. Using tax shifting in a portion of revenue growth has not resulted in a lowering of the overall tax burden on Arkansans. That's what you need to take away from this. Lowering the overall tax burden, the goals of the task force legislation are to simplify tax laws, attract business, and provide more fairness. All are noble goals, CFA writes. That should be supported by the public. But what does it have to do with lowering the state tax burden? Again, the operative word here is relief. We suppose one could argue if you change the tax laws in a way to attract more businesses, then new businesses means more taxpayers to pay taxes. And if salaries go up, there would be more income to tax. Then somewhere down the road, the increase in taxpayers and incomes might be enough new revenue to allow the state to reduce the overall tax burden. Will that work, though? That's the question. We'll talk more about it when we come back. Back in just a moment.
Like, okay, so Thanksgiving, are we going to dress up like pilgrims? They're going to get all up in arms about that?
Again, yeah, they should.
Exactly.
They should.
Oh, it's Christmas. Going to dress up like Santa Claus.
Yeah,
I don't dress up like Santa Claus the rest of the year, but I'm going to dress up today.
Mm-hmm.
Get all up in arms about that, please.
Yeah, this is kind of like, in a weird way, this is how. You remember a long time ago? It's still today. PETA. Okay, they don't want you to do anything to animals. They don't want you to eat animals. They don't want you to, and so you could very easily Now, PETA doesn't do that. They do these other campaigns trying to persuade people to think the way they want them to think. But can you imagine if PETA had an organized effort to every schmo on a curb eating some beef jerky, you go up to them with a camera and say, do you know where that meat came from? That's meat? Do you know that was alive? How dare you appropriate that meat into your digestive system? Don't you know what you're doing? You're a murderer. Now, I know there are people like that, but that's essentially what has happened. That's what's. I mean, we have all of these millennial victims, and they are trying to force political correctness, and they want to shame people instead of trying to convince them that, hey man, maybe you shouldn't wear that poncho, it might offend somebody. Now that's still, that he still has a right to wear the poncho. Yep. Get over it.
Yep. On the PETA thing, do you know the spoof name for PETA, the acronym? Like the people who make fun of PETA, you know what it stands for?
I do not.
Purposefully eating tasty animals.
That's that is also the definition of trolling.
Yes.
I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah, I bet that gets some pretty bad responses out there. All right, well, anyway, I just had to talk about that. I could because I saw the article, Freedom of Speech on the Move. Not at our college campuses, it's not.
No,
people don't know what it is. They're actually calling for limits to free speech.
I'd say on college campuses, it's not on the move. It's at a screeching halt at this point, and it's probably, if anything, it's in reverse.
Yeah.
It's going backwards.
Yeah, and you almost saw it. The big irony was, when Stephen Colbert, said those things about Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, and then you saw, it was a homosexual reference, and he made, a homosexual act between two men appear in a negative light. And, all the fire Colberts and that sort of thing, that was really ironic that, Stephen Colbert's out there doing the left's bidding. Now, he's actually concerned about Donald Trump in many of the ways we were concerned about Barack Obama, although you could have never you could have never said that about Barack Obama. You would have been thrown off the air. And yet he almost gets thrown off the air because of the left's outrage.
Yeah, because he's a poster child for a lot of different things for the left, but he says one wrong thing.
Yeah.
And it gets people all up in arms about it. He's immediately now a social pariah of the left.
Yeah. Yeah, they're creating – what they don't understand is the power structure at the top that benefits from this, that benefits from all of these voters, really. You're setting up such a volatile situation where they only have to cry wolf. They only have to cry victim, and they get this huge support rallying to their cause. You're setting up a powder keg.
Yeah, they don't
to
actually
where you could lose. Even though you're the Democrat, you're the progressive, you're benefiting from all of this. You could lose control of it like that.
Yeah, they don't actually have to have proof that something's actually wrong or something's been done to them. They just have to be able to cry wolf, and automatically everyone's on their side.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. The Liberty Machine rolls on next.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Hey, follow me on Twitter at Paul Harrell 1776, and we've really slacked. We had the legislative session, and you would think that we didn't slack during the legislative session, but we slacked on some things. One of the things that we have slacked on is the twit of the day, okay, which we want you guys out there to help us with. Those of you who are on Twitter, feel free to refer to me. And all you got to do is just retweet it, but quote it. If you retweet and then quote it, you can just put twit of the day in there, or you can put, you should probably tag me at Paul Harrell 1776, okay? At Paul Harrell 1776, at Paul Harrell 1776. You spell my last name Harrell, and then just put twit of the day submission, right? And if you do that, we'll get it, we'll review it, and we're going to be looking for twits of the day, because we need to start doing this, because it's, number one, it's kind of fun. And but so we want to continue to do that because we kind of been lagging behind. We've been so bogged down with covering everything that's going on down there, and we want to bring the twit of the day back, or the twit of the week, or something. Phone number 870-275-9799. Call or text that number, 870-275-9799. We mentioned that campaign letter we read on on Tuesday. Remember the campaign letter? We had a listener that sent it to us. He's listening now. He says the campaign letter mentioned conservative principles twice. This was an effort to just explain how he's using that word, and his definition of that word, Ace's definition of that word, is not what the majority of Arkansans' definition of that word is. Then he writes in, campaign letter mentions tax cut 2 times, quote, much needed tax relief 1 time, lower the tax rate 1 time. So he does have that in there. But it all comes back to, again, this article over at Conduit for Action. What does that mean? He is parroting his own goals in the task force. You know, Josh Miller made a great point yesterday on the program. Representative Josh Miller made a fantastic point that the healthcare task force that went ahead to recommend to keep Medicaid expansion, they just did what ASA wanted them to do. They recommended, and if you remember, the media said it was the unanimous vote. The governor said it was a unanimous vote. It was a formality. He didn't need their recommendation to do anything. But they went ahead and rubber stamped what he wanted them to do concerning Arkansas Medicaid expansion, Obamacare, meaning basically exposing the entire task force to be a farce. Because there wasn't one bill that actually came out of the task force. He did say one, Joe Farrar's bill, but not one that actually dealt with what they were supposed to deal with. And the idea is that's exactly what's going to happen now. It will be the governor who goes to the tax reform task force and says, this is my proposal, and every one of them will go along with it. That's what's going to happen. It'll be deja vu, Groundhog Day all over again. So we know what the goals that they say they are. Back to the CFA article. The goals of the task force legislation, I'm throwing out my rule. The goals of the task force legislation are to simplify tax laws, attract business, and provide more fairness. All are noble goals that should be supported by the public. But what does it have to do with lowering the tax burden? We suppose one could argue, we read this just a second ago, but listen to this. We suppose you could argue that if you change the tax laws in a way to attract more businesses, then new businesses means more taxpayers to pay taxes, and if salaries go up, there would be more income to tax. Then somewhere down the road, the increase in taxpayers and incomes might be enough new revenue to allow the state to reduce the overall tax burden. Okay? Will that work? CFA writes, probably not. Consider that Arkansas has been giving away money to attract new big businesses, and so far bringing in new businesses has not served to reduce the tax burden on Arkansas taxpayers. They just had a huge announcement and gave ASA all this public press, all this good publicity that he used your money to obtain, the Chinese company that's coming into St. Francis County, and yet we're still overtaxed and overregulated in this state. In addition, the latest tax report shows a significant drop in tax collections from corporations. It could be argued that tax incentives given to big business has contributed to the drop in corporate tax collections. Hello, McFly. Some legislators even point to the drop in corporate tax collections to argue tax increases are necessary. The only other way to lower the tax burden on Arkansans is to limit government growth and cut wasteful spending. Eliminating waste and cutting budgets are no fun for politicians, but how can you reduce the tax burden as government expands to use up everything collected? Although the task force has nothing to do with limiting government growth or cutting wasteful spending, nearly every legislative committee has a role in holding down the cost of government. They just don't do it. The committee that should be at the forefront of holding down costs is the Joint Budget Committee. The Joint Budget Committee holds budget hearings every year, and the major budget hearings are held jointly with the Legislative Council every 2 years. The hearings are not about the merits of the agency or the agency's performance. Instead, it's about making some tweaks and figuring out how much of an increase the state can give based on revenue projections. The starting point for the budget hearings is the agency's current budget. Then the committee deals with the budget requests made by state agencies and the governor. Once the requested modifications are considered, I think that word would be considered implies that you could go either way. Once the requested modifications are considered, the committee then applies an across-the-board percentage increase for state agencies. The percentage increase is based on revenue projections for the next fiscal year. For many state agencies, the budget process is merely how much the agency spent, multiplied by a general percentage increase. We're not actually evaluating whether or not the money they spent last year that they deserve it this year, or the money that they spent on fixing our problems. Well, how come you didn't solve that problem? If you solve that problem, you don't need that money this year. That's not their mentality. Their mentality is the same system that has not been reformed, that almost put Hillary Clinton in the White House. It's where she got her start. We need to continue to pound that fact that Bill Clinton and the Clintons, arguably the most the most powerful political family in the world, got their start here, and we had this huge ideological shift, supposedly, and we won't actually change anything. When waste is found, state agencies are not penalized. Some legislators chew out the agency heads, and then the legislature continues to budget as if the waste never happened. Sometimes it even looks like an agency is rewarded for waste. For example, the director of the Arkansas Department of Labor was found by the Division of Legislative Audit to have spent thousands of dollars on travel expenses that could not be justified. Instead of penalizing the agency, the 2017 legislature rewarded the waste by almost doubling the department's travel budget. Isn't that crazy? We got to start. Why? Did everybody in the General Assembly agree with it? No, I promise you they didn't. I promise you, but they got the good old boys in the positions of leadership that they're not actually gonna do anything to rock the boat. I'm going to read that again. I'm going to read that paragraph again. It's a big deal. When waste is found, state agencies are not penalized. Some legislators chew out the agency heads, political grandstanding with no actual teeth. Chew out agency heads, and then the legislature continues to budget as if the waste never happened. Sometimes it even looks like an agency is rewarded for waste. For example, the director of the Arkansas Department of Labor was found by the Division of Legislative Audit to have spent thousands of dollars on travel expenses that could not be justified. Instead of penalizing the agency in 2017, the legislature rewarded the waste by almost doubling the department's travel budget. I mean, these people are vultures. You want to know why? Yeah, people in government aren't terrible people. No, they're not. They're not terrible people. But people like this give them a bad name. For the sake of all the good people in state government and government agencies, people like that should be punished publicly. For the sake of all the ones who are good, honest, trustworthy, frugal with other people's money. The Speaker of the House says the Arkansas General Assembly is a full-time legislative body, and that is why their salaries needed to be increased dramatically in 2015. Yet, this full-time legislative body never gets around to a systematic evaluation of state government programs that the legislature created and funded. No one looks to see what programs are unnecessary or wasteful, what programs are the least important, or what programs should be cut or eliminated. You never look at that stuff. And if there ever was the political will to do it, you would not let the full body decide. You'd call a task force so you could control the outcome. So you make sure the cuts aren't too deep. what our legislators and the legislative committees, what are our legislators and the legislative committees waiting for? What are they waiting for? Folks, ask that question. Ask that question the next time you see them. And even to the good ones, even to the ones you know that have good voting records. Someone to create a budget. Oh, wow. Look, conduit fraction. What are they waiting for? Someone to create a budget task force? The creation of a task force to direct the work of all committees and task forces? The Arkansas State Bureau of... what was it? Well, I can't even say it. The Arkansas State Licensing Board governing state licensing boards? What are they waiting for? All right, so at the end of this article, and this is up right now at conduit4action.org, how to enhance the work of the task force. If you want the Arkansas Tax Reform and Tax Relief Legislative Task Force to have a free hand to make major changes to our tax laws, the legislature must start scrutinizing state agency programs and state agency budgets. No legislation is necessary for legislative committees to begin to systematically review state agency programs and expenditures. Every legislative committee should have already been doing that. Ask your legislators, quote, when are the committees you serve on going to start a real evaluation of state agency programs and expenditures with the purpose of ending unnecessary spending of taxpayer money? That's the question that'll make them run for the hills. It's pretty ridiculous. Again, the headline, we want more than tax shifting. We want tax relief. Honestly, the second half of this article should have been an article in and of itself about the agency heads getting an increase in their budget in their travel budget after they were found by the Department of Audit to be wasting money on travel expenses. Really, really ridiculous. And that brings me to this other piece. And Mr. David Ferguson over at Conduit for Action, it's his segment, his column space, Ferguson on Politics. It's a really good one. He talks about shell bills. And he lists some of these shell bills. It's really good. I think we're probably going to save this, though, for tomorrow. And by the way, tomorrow is Johnny Cash Friday, as well as this one, which is about Representative Kim Hendren. It's another good one. So we'll certainly get to that here in a minute. All right, so I want to talk about this sign that has been put up. So liberals are no fans of Senator Jason Rapert. Did you know that? Uh-oh. Looks like we got to have microphone problems right to the end of the show. Well, I got to take it over now. Yeah. Joe, we're about to throw the show to you. Anyway, I probably need to replace some of these mic cords. Remind me to do that after the show. Every now and then they just go out. It's just part of the problem. All right, so Senator Jason Rapert of Faulkner County, the left calls him the bully of Bigelow. Now, liberals are no fans of Senator Jason Rapert, and honestly, on the limited government conservative side, there's a lot of criticism that you can throw Senator Rapert's way. You know, he campaigned vigorously against supporting Medicaid expansion, but he's supported it every step of the way. Once he got in office, he said it was going to make Arkansas a candy land of entitlements, and you know he was right, but he went ahead and supported it anyway. My biggest criticism of Jason Rapert, you ready for this? And it actually is just a personal. He will, in committee, and even on the Senate floor, he will ask some of the best questions about pieces of legislation. Really, really good questions that expose. Countless times expose the legislation as being a bad idea, but then he goes ahead and votes for it. I've seen it a lot of times, and I mean, and he's welcome on the program anytime, but like that's my main criticism is he has some really great questions that to me expose this as being not conservative, growing government, and all these things, and then And I mean, he'll even get people, he'll ask questions that they can't even answer. And it's like, that was a really good question, you know, and then he goes ahead and casts the vote for it. That's my biggest criticism of him. Now, the left's biggest criticism of him is going to be that he's outspoken about his faith, okay? Very outspoken about his faith, and they don't like that. And I think there's a Democrat that's now announced against him and that sort of thing. And I mean, honestly, I'd love to have a theological conversation with Senator Rapert. I think that would be, you know, interesting. And he's welcome on the program. I'd like to get him on to do an impression of the session very soon. But Senator Rapert, there's a billboard. The left is now the left is now coming after him to resign. And I saw this and I thought, oh my gosh, exactly. Thank you, Joe. Exactly. The left is coming after Jason Rapert to resign. They have this big sign up. And it's got his face on it. It's a billboard. It's in his district, and it says Rapert resign. It's got his face on it. And the website is arrevolution.org. And I'm thinking, the left is asking Rapert to resign, but not Jake Files. You couldn't have at least thrown Jake Files' face up there? It's ridiculous. Jake Files is the guy. He is the poster child of who should resign because he's actually done stuff that's wrong, not just offended people. See, that's the main problem. Whether you're on the right or on the left, aside from the policy disagreements I would have with Senator Rapert, which I've listed some of them, the only thing that Rapert really does is offend people. For the most part, I feel like that's the main grievance, other than on the difference between more mainstream Republicans versus platform Republicans, right? But on the left, everybody's just offended by him. You know what I mean? There's not really, they're offended by something he said or the way he put something or something like that. You know what I mean? It's not an actual, the left has policy differences with him, and you just go look at the I think it's a lady that's running against him or whatever, but. Max Brantley writes, a money drive on change.org apparently raised sufficient cash. $750 was the goal to erect a Rapert resign billboard in the senatorial district of, they call him the Bully of Bigelow. The sponsor, arrevolution.org, describes itself as an independent expenditure committee raising money to get active in races for Arkansas legislature, a, quote, national embarrassment. Thanks to the recent session. So the left is calling the Arkansas legislature, and I think in general, they're just calling Arkansas a national embarrassment. So this is the rare exception to my rule that many Democrats in Arkansas are very happy with the things that are going on right now. The liberal columnists are, and everything else. But there needs to be a Jake Files billboard. I mean, if we're really serious, and if you could take this leftist organization seriously, if they actually were calling for Jake Files' resignation, but they won't. We have to take a break. Maybe I'll call them and ask them. Back in a minute.
This is ASA News, The Parrot. With breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock. I'm Bob Maloney. There are reports circling around from politicians who are in the know, and the same phrase keeps being used. That phrase is new revenue generation. Let's go to our reporter on the ground from the Capitol, Haley Hogwash. Haley?
Thanks, Bob. Yes, it seems the more politicians I talk to, the more I hear the phrase new revenue generation. We're trying to figure out exactly what that means, but you can rest assured it will be good for the people of Arkansas.
Haley, it certainly sounds like something good. I like how the phrase uses the word generation. That makes me think this has got to be doing something positive for our children in the future. Haley?
Yes, Bob, some new developments. I've just been speaking to some people who are here and are not politicians, and they tell me the phrase new revenue generation is actually code for a new tax.
Oh, my. Well, if this is true, Haley, that would add to a growing list of new taxes that have barely made any headlines at all, so it's best not to discuss them here on ASA News, The Parrot.
Yes, Bob, I know it's sure to make government officials angry that their phrasing of the new revenue generation has been changed by the people and called a tax increase.
I would expect an announcement from Mother Government soon to set the record straight. What is the new tax? Revenue generation, Haley?
Well, this new tax, a new revenue generation would add to a growing list. First, there was a revenue generation on movies, books, and songs that people download using the internet. And next, there was the tax increase. I'm sorry, Bob, the new revenue generation on all purchases made using the internet. And now I'm told this new revenue generation is a tax on the people's patience.
I realize the people don't like it, Haley, but specifically, what is the new tax? Revenue generation.
No, Bob, I'm telling you, according to the activists here at the Capitol who have gathered and are listening to some radio broadcast, the revenue generation is literally taxing the patience of the people of Arkansas. I'm told the less patience you have with the government,
The government better not tax our patience.
The more they will tax your patience and the more money you will owe at a later date. I'm also told the collection method on taxing your patience will be decided in a newly formed multicolored ribbon task force.
How taxing.
PHP parody.
I went on over to this independent expenditure committee, and it's just a scam to get you to contribute. I want the results of my survey. They won't give them to me. Like, as you go back here, this is the outfit that's put this resign Rapert billboard up in his district. No, I don't want to. Now they've got pop-up ads. What is going on here? So it's really strange. I just filled it out, and then they asked me for money. So anyway, what priorities would you like our state legislators to have? 5 stars is the highest. More and better jobs. I put 5. Reducing poverty. I put 1 just to make them mad. Improved health care for Arkansans. I put 1 because their definition of improved health care means just insurance, which is not health care. Invest in our public elementary and high school. I put 1. Keep the natural state clean and green. 1. Reduce crime rates. 5. Fulfill voters' wishes on medical marijuana. I did put 5 on that. Ban books. 1. Criminalize the LGBT community. 1. No one's trying to do that. Wipe out the right to protest. 1. Guns, more guns everywhere. I put 5. Rename airports. I put a 4. I don't like that the airport is named after Bill and Hillary Clinton. Privatize and monetize our public schools. I went ahead and put 5 because that's actually not what they're trying to do, but they do want something called school choice. And then they had me rate the state senators who were up for re-election in 2018, like Cecile Bledsoe, Linda Chesterfield, Jake Files. Jake Files either gets an A, a B, a C, a D, an F, or a lower than F. They put that as an option. I gave him a lower than F. Well, there's a sizable amount up for re-election. Anyway, I submitted this again. This liberal outfit, arrevolution.org. I submitted this, and then they asked me for money. Come on now. Speaking of money, if you want to buy our Liberty Machine T-shirts, they're for sale at paulharrell.com. That's Paul, HARRELL.com. Building a Liberty Machine T-shirts. So just click on store. We would appreciate that. They're great looking shirts, and you'd love them. People are going to ask you, what does this mean? Where'd you get that? And you tell them, well, it's Paul Harrell. It's got the website, paulharrell.com. Listen live every day, 4 to 6, or watch. Folks, we got to go. Arkansas, thanks for listening. Be safe. Tomorrow is Johnny Cash Friday for our Mountain Talk 97 audience. You guys still have 1 more hour coming your way next, so stay tuned. For the rest of you, we'll see you tomorrow.